Ladies and gentlemen, I cover one major subject on this channel, and it's chess. And I also cover one major topic within that major subject, and that is Magnus Carlsen. And we really should appreciate while he's still here and playing, because pretty soon he will be retired, living somewhere, maybe growing tomato plants and, I don't know, playing golf. And he won't be playing chess anymore. In this video, I'm going to be showing you a ridiculous run that he went on in a recent tournament on chess.com where he played 11 games. And he won every single game. That might sound like just a typical Tuesday for Magnus Carlsen, but this has only been done like 5 or 6 times ever, and he now owns half of those performances in this tournament. So this will be a slightly longer video. So put me up on the smart TV in the living room, listen in the shower, or wherever you watch your chess or at your desktop, and just enjoy, all right? I'm going to be showing you 11 games that Magnus Carlsen played and 11 games that Magnus Carlsen won. Also, the first event of my European tour is in 20 days, 21 days. It's in 3 weeks. It's in Brussels. Get a ticket. You'll see Anna Cramling in Brussels. And after that, we've got London, and we've got amazing special guests, amazing program for all of you. And we recently added Prague in Czechia as well. So on that note, here we go. 11 games, 11 wins, 3,300 blitz. This is just absolutely unfathomable. Let's begin. Magnus opens the campaign with the move d4. His opponent in the first round is a 2583 rated player from Uzbekistan. Obviously a young kid, probably pretty good. Magnus plays c3 in this game. This is not a real opening. And by the way, the diversity of Magnus's openings are also very fun. Then he plays bishop g5. So this is basically a Trompowsky attack where he plays the move c3 on the second move, and then the bishop here, but it also could have been reversed. And then he sets up like this, okay? This is one of my favorite openings, particularly because before you develop the knight to f3, you can play f4, and you can play a stonewall pawn structure. Now, of course, this is not the computer's top choice, but Magnus, at the level that he is relying on the fact that his opponents don't know precisely how to exploit some of his provocative openings under a time constraint of a blitz game. So he plays bishop d3, and again, you kind of see that the knight is waiting, because in this pawn structure, if white can win the battle for the 2 central squares, white will have very promising long-term opportunities in the position. h6. Normally here, I take the knight, and then I try to go here right away. Magnus is not me, though. He's, better. I don't like when black can play g5. His opponent doesn't play g5, though. His opponent plays a little bit more passively. And now Magnus plays queen f3. He's ready to move his knight at any moment. Maybe he'll castle this way. Maybe he'll castle this way. His opponent, though, decides, okay, I am going to trade some pieces, because without pieces, Magnus cannot attack me. I'm going to cough now and mute my microphone so I don't cough into the microphone. You can also take a quick water break. Fantastic. Let's proceed. Now, Magnus trades the bishop and voluntarily moves his king as part of these trades. Now, you would think black traded a knight and a bishop and got white to move the king, right? So obviously Magnus is not going to be able to generate an attack from this position. No, he will. Puts his queen on e3, puts the knight on the traditional square where it's supposed to be. Black just doesn't have enough pieces to launch any sort of attack. Like, there's no way to get to the white king. And one thing about white's position as well in the long run is white has a lot of pawns on dark squares with a light squared bishop, which complement very well. So little positional things to keep an eye on. But now, g4. By the way, Magnus did all of this. He played 15 moves. He played them less than 1 second per move on average. Of course, he's gaining a little bit of time every move, but on average, yeah, g4. His opponent here plays the best move, b5, looking for some counterplay, obviously a strong player, and Magnus plays g5. He has arrived. He is the first one to strike. He doesn't castle. His king has moved. His rooks aren't even behind the pawns. His opponent goes to lock the position, and Magnus sacrifices a pawn. Look at this, a very, very provocative move. Very, very, tricky decision. g6, played in 0.7 seconds. He didn't even spend a second sacrificing this pawn. It's a tough decision. Which way is black going to take? If black doesn't take, then white has a possibility to get to that pawn and then deliver a mate. So black takes on g6. Magnus immediately plays knight e5. This pawn to g6 was a gluttonous invitation to eat, but potentially get poisoned by the open file. And now, despite being a full pawn down, Magnus has opened up the G and F files with this diagonal, with the queen, and the game is over. Black is now left to fend off 4 attacking pieces, and it's just not possible. You have to play very, very, very precisely here. He plays F5, which is the best move, by the way, locking out this bishop, but potentially weakening some things. Magnus plays rook G1, and Black plays bishop E8, and that is a losing mistake, apparently. Black needed to play rook F7 first to potentially evacuate the king, kind of threaten an evacuation. But after this, now if you play rook F7, you are going to lose the pawn on E6. And so he goes here, and I love the way Magnus does this. He just generated a vicious attack. Well, he doesn't have to deliver checkmate. He just is happy to go to an endgame. He trades the queens after winning a bunch of the kingside pawns, and Black is left having to defend 3 passed pawns. And it's over, because you can't. 2 rooks cannot defend 3 pawns like this. With the backing of a bishop and a rook, Magnus uses the attack as a threat to win an endgame, where he just clears out the entire center of the board, marches the pawns up, and ultimately promotes a queen. His opponent just resigned here. By the way, he never went below 2 minutes. His opponent went down to 8 seconds. By the way, his opponent, despite being only 2,600 on chess.com, is like, you know, I'm assuming 2011, like this kid is 14. He's obviously a very, very good player. I undoubtedly believe that he will be a grandmaster one day. Just like an unbelievable performance to generate an attack from this position. Like you would think, oh, the guy like moved his king. I mean, it's already a really big concession. No, just G4, G5, G6. Just ridiculous. Ridiculous how easy he makes it look. There's 10 more games. I told you this would be a slightly longer video because I kind of want to show you like the intricacies of some of these games. In the next game, you know, he won, so he played somebody also with 1 point. Tamerlan Baltabayev. By the way, if Tamerlan Baltabayev was in the UFC, I would bet on all his fights. I mean, I'm just saying, like, with a name like that, how are you not destined to be great? And in this game, Magnus plays a Dutch defense, all right? He plays the Leningrad Dutch with bishop G7. This is a typical Dutch, right? And so here, with this diagonal, you play this move E5. This is a very common idea. Takes, and there is a general rule of thumb. If Black is able to play connect 4 in the middle of the board, Black is going to be doing very well. White has to be very precise here. The best move here for White is to attack this rook and play energetically. He plays passively, and from the opening, we get to this position. This is all Magnus needs. He now has a slightly better version of a Dutch. If you give Magnus a better position with Black in 9 moves, yeah, be careful. Knight G4. There are problems here. The only move now not to lose is the move bishop C3, which keeps this protected, but also defends the bishop so the knight can move, because right now, you can't move the knight. White plays H3, and yeah, now you lose to Magnus Carlsen in 10 moves. He sacrifices the knight on the F2 square because he wants to play the move C5, and now you can't move anything. You can't move the knight, not even because you lose the bishop and then the rook. You can't move the knight because you're going to lose the queen. White plays E3. Magnus doesn't even take the knight. He plays knight C6, increasing the pressure, and now after pawn takes, pawn to E3, the rook is deflected either from the defense of the pawn or the center pawn. You go here, and queen G5, not even the best move. F4 was even stronger, but queen G5 will do just fine. And there it is. Say like a 15 move evisceration of a young man who, you know, played like this and then just made 1 inaccuracy in the opening and got completely pancaked. F4. Now let's see. Can Magnus finish it off in style? Bishop F5. Yeah. I'm not even making fun of anybody. This is just like, sometimes you get paired against Magnus Carlsen and you just poop your pants. Like, there's nothing you can do. You know, you're like sitting there and he just took all your pieces. White never even got to move 2 pieces. Those pieces, he just sat there. He just never got them off the back rank. It just happens. You know, it happens. Meanwhile, Magnus, of course, utilized everything. Very nice. And yeah, like in the Leningrad, I used to have games like this. But yeah, knight G4, knight F2, C5. Very, very nice. 2 out of 2. By the way, we got 9 more games, just in case you were wondering. Now, this next game, he's playing Etienne Bacrot. He's already playing people who are super grandmasters. Bacrot was one of the best players in the world. Magnus has the white pieces. Bacrot plays the Queen's Gambit accepted. Let's see how Magnus Carlsen handles this. By the way, Queen's Gambit accepted is an amazing opening for Black at intermediate level. I have a course on Chessly, which you can check out. Those of you that have Chessly already, appreciate you. Check out the course. Those of you that never tried it, try it for free for 7 days. It's an amazing opening weapon. If you want a nice defense for black, Queen's Gambit Accepted is awesome. It's less awesome when you're playing Magnus Carlsen. He plays knight bd2 and knight takes d4. I've never seen this system in my life. I have to be honest. In this position, white has like a million moves, but I've never seen knight d2 and then not taking with the pawn and taking with the knight instead. Never seen this. So, cool. He puts his bishops like this. Back row kicks his knight out, finishes his development. Queen b1 is like only a move a 3287 plays. You asked me to make a move, like, of course I'm going to move my rook here. I'm going to put my queen here and my rook here. Like, you know, my rook's on d1. Maybe I'll play h3 so this bishop can't pin me. I don't know. Maybe I'll play a3, b4, take some space. What even is queen b1? Well, queen b1 stops this, also stops the effectiveness of bishop g4 because it's no longer a pin, and maybe knight e4, by the way. You want to play knight e4, you want to trade with the queen, and then you want to maybe bring the queen over there. Also rook d1, like, black goes queen e7, Magnus puts the rook on d1, and then plays knight e4. He plays knight e4 while his bishop is hanging. Because black's bishop is hanging. b5 knight e4 is amazing. It's like a judo throw. b5, and then you don't even acknowledge it, but you go here because you attack the bishop, and if the knight takes you, and by the way, to evaluate that this is a better trade for white is also ridiculous, and after the knight is hanging on c6, you still can't take on c4 because after this, the bishop and the rook are both hanging, so black has to go here, and now you play bishop d5 because you have all of this, and then when black defends that, you have rook c1, and white is winning. How did he even see all of that? How is it even possible? How is it possible to see all of that? The knight is hanging. The knight can't move anywhere because the bishop is hanging. If the knight moves somewhere that protects the bishop, that still doesn't work because rook c8, and that knight needed to defend the center. Bishop takes e5. Now black is just a pawn down. A pawn down with a very rapidly deteriorating position and a knight stranded on the edge of the board which can't re-enter the game. Because if it does, what's its next move? Right? You want to play knight c5? I play knight c6. I disconnect your pieces and I'm going to win the game. So h6, knight takes f7. By the way, look, you see how good you have to be tactically. Knight takes f7. Same tactic as the previous game on f2. And then when this happens, Magnus, easy. 2 pawns up at an endgame. This is breakfast for him. What's funny is that in the game, Bakro went rook a2 and Bakro resigned. Black made his move. It was Magnus's move, and before Magnus could even make a move, his opponent said, you know, I don't even want to do this anymore, because he knows that Magnus is going to come back and defend himself, and very slowly, you know, this is just a level of respect that you have to earn. 3 out of 3. By the way, 8 more games, just in case you are counting. There are 8 more games remaining, which just absolutely blows my mind. The next game, Magnus plays Alexander Klebovich. Klebovich was actually, he was actually in a recent recap because I beat him with the white pieces. Poor guy gets beaten by me and Magnus in the same 2-week span. He's losing to legends. By the way, look at this opening. It's the same Leningrad Dutch, but this time he plays somebody who kind of knows what he's doing, kind of. And, you know, it puts pressure via a different type of setup. E5. Magnus going for a very similar thing, and this time a lot of pieces just got traded. So we had a queen trade, a knight trade, and it's obviously, you know, white putting some pressure on the position. No queens. Now watch how in the next 5 moves, Magnus just gets a completely winning position. It's just, I don't even know how it's possible, okay? Bishop g5. Now, there is a moment he actually messes up and white is better for a few moves. So king f7, bringing his rook in front of 2 pieces, and he has to bring his king to stop anything from coming here. But the nice thing about the Leningrad is very resilient. Soon you're going to play here and here, kick out both pieces, and finish up your development. c6, knight goes back, and white plays e4 and gets caught. He just gets caught. The bishop is just trapped. If pawn takes f4, you play h6, bishop h4, pawn takes f4. g5 is threatening to trap the bishop. So white has to play f3. And then you just go knight a6. Now this bishop is completely dead. You accidentally made your opponent kill off their own pieces. Okay, you can play bishop h3, doesn't matter. Rook d3, I trade, I double, I'll personally go here, I take your knight, I play knight c5. In like 5 moves, Magnus gets just a totally winning position. f4 just incredible. Keeps the center closed. This pawn gets in the way of these 2 pieces. The bishop can no longer go backwards. And he gives up the rook. He sacrifices the rook. He doesn't take the right way, by the way, which is kind of funny. He doesn't take the right way. He allows his opponent to escape. But the bishop was trapped. He didn't take like this because he probably thought the bishop runs away, but it doesn't. Knight a6, bishop a5, b6. The bishop is trapped. Instead, he took like this and misses bishop d8 completely. He just misses it. He probably thought here that he was trapping the bishop anyway, but he's not. He's out of time because white castles, and now you aren't able to move the bishop. So this was maybe the one slip up of the first 4 rounds. Bishop d7 would have been the culmination of a very nice combo, but it doesn't even matter because literally 3 moves later, Magnus is better again. Just utilizing all he has. He has 2 bishops, a knight, and a rook. All right? He's just a man with 2 hands, and the game ends up clearing out. King and the rook are on the same diagonal. White is completely lost. King e4, bishop c3. You can't take because I open up a discovered attack on your rook. And just easy. Rook e2. He's up. Again, 2 pawns in an endgame. Lebovich plays on a little bit longer than back row. Now Magnus is up 4 pawns. And yeah, white decides that being 4 pawns down against Magnus Carlsen is not a winning strategy, and he resigns. That's 4 games. Now is when they take their first break. He comes back. He is playing Fredrik Svane. And by the way, Fredrik Svane, as well as Rasmus Svane, who I think, yeah, Magnus played him in the last round of this tournament. He played both Svane brothers. Both Svane brothers are going to be at my Munich event. Remember the Europe tour that I was promoting in the beginning of the video? I invited both brothers on stage to beat me up in chess, and maybe also with boxing gloves if they're up for it. They are very strong guys, all right? They're the strongest brothers in the entire world of chess. It's like a little anime, and Magnus played them both. All right, round number 5, Magnus is playing Fredrik Svane. He plays d4. He plays a completely normal Queen's Gambit exchange. Okay, bishop g5, Queen's Gambit, exchange variation, e3, bishop d3, bishop h4. The way that white likes to play this is f3. Bring the bishop back, advance in the center. That's why the knight doesn't go to that square. It's very well-known stuff. If you don't know this, don't worry. Castles, rook c1. Black also playing very solid stuff. Magnus plays a4. Okay, interesting system. Black plays knight h5, inviting a trade of the dark squared bishops, and white plays queen d2. White has absolutely nothing from the opening. Nothing. So how's Magnus going to win this game? Is he going to just make a bunch of good moves and just outplay his opponent? Let's see. Rook e1. He probably is preparing something with a central expansion. Black plays g6, knight c1. See how he put his queen, rook, knight this way? Knight might go over there. f3, e4 on the way. Black is not worried, but you should be. Magnus very calmly coordinated his pieces. e4 is the next move. What does Black play? Wow. So this is a very big reaction to the move e4. You weaken b5, you weaken d5. Magnus immediately exploits the move that you just made. That must be a very harrowing feeling, that you just play a move that weakened a square, and Magnus just puts a piece there. Now you got a block, and here comes the knight. So the bishop makes way for the knight, which had just moved from the e2 square, which went that way so that the rook could come forward. Again, I would like to draw your attention to the puzzle pieces and how they move. Queen up 1 square to slide the rook there to the knight replacing it, and then the bishop goes there, and then the knight goes where the bishop was. Dude plays chess the way we play 2048, when you slide the tiles across and try to add up all the numbers. Pawn takes d4, and suddenly just 7 moves later, this is attacked. The knight is strong, the pawn is weak, these pieces haven't moved yet. Now let's move into the opponent's position. Whoa! That pawn was just hanging. As it turns out, that's not even the best move. The computer wants knight here or g4, which is, I don't even understand. Probably because you don't want to allow this counterplay, right? And that wasn't correct, because now Black is actually okay. So taking the pawn on h6 was the wrong decision, and instead, the computer says, don't take the pawn, go g4, because that move severely restricts the knight on g7 from ever entering the game, and the next move you can take. But Magnus is only human. Maybe he just really likes playing equal positions and endgames, and Svane has equalized. He's back in the game, but he is down time. I did say he's a very good player, right? Well, now Magnus is going to try to pry apart his defenses in a 4-on-4 position. g4, rook d2, trades a pair of rooks. Black is very passive, by the way. Look at Black's position. Rook a4, rook d4. Black lost on time. He froze. And in this position, you may be wondering, why does the computer evaluate the position as so good? It's because black doesn't have a move. If black moves the rook, he loses the pawn. If black moves the knight, he loses the pawn. If black moves the pawn, he loses the pawn. Literally the only move here is to just move the king somewhere, like here. And now white would play rook f4, king g5, rook f5, and have a totally dominant position where none of the black pieces can move. And that's why he froze. The game ends in an anticlimactic way, but it ends that way because he froze black completely, again from an equal position. Okay, it was not like the most dominant victory of all time, but 5 out of 5. The next game, he plays like an arch nemesis of his. Magnus loses to Grandmaster Benjamin Bach pretty frequently. Like, I don't know what their head-to-head score is, by the way. Yeah, he has 3 wins and 4 losses against Magnus. That's nuts. All right? And 32-95. This time, Magnus plays the Queen's Gambit Accepted himself. You see, I told you about the Queen's Gambit Accepted earlier. I told you to check it out on Chessly, my educational platform. It's an amazing weapon. All right? Magnus says, I kind of like it. I'm going to play it. All right? This time, Bach plays Queen e2. That's not what Magnus played. And Magnus, you'll notice, hasn't even played the move c5. That's the major difference. Okay, a4, bishop b7. A gambit. He's giving up a pawn. So the pawn on b5 is just hanging. Bach takes it. Castles. Remember, you know how many points Magnus finished in this tournament. He got 11 points. How on earth did he win this position down a pawn? How is that possible? It's a completely boring position. Everything in white's position is well protected. How on earth? How did he win this? It's symmetrical, except white has an extra pawn. How? He played actively. His pieces were very active, well coordinated, but how do you win? It's not even, okay, white is just, what? Well, he was losing? Yeah. Rook takes b5. Look at this. Queen takes f3. He sacrificed a full rook. For what? He wants to go queen h3 and bishop e5? Rook d7, played by Bach. After spending some 40 seconds, Magnus takes a pawn with check. And he's just down a rook. Check. Queen c6. Is this even real? He's just straight up down a rook? How? Oh my gosh, white just blundered a draw. And now white blunders mate. I think it's impossible to get 11-0 without a little bit of luck. And Magnus in this game, he really went for the glory here. He really went for the glory. White doesn't have an easy way to generate play against the king. The king is actually really safe, and this king wasn't. And Bach got really low on time and froze up a little bit. He tried to go for glory. Here, the move rook d8 is completely winning for white. The point is rook d8. If king h7, you trade the queen. If here, queen h4, king g8. I think you can play queen g5 and win. But even queen g4 is probably good enough. But yeah, Bach loses. Sometimes you need a little bit of luck. The craziest part is there are 5 more games. 5 more games to cap this off. His next game was against Christopher Yu. Okay? Last time we saw a vintage Queen's Gambit decline. Hopefully we don't see any more memes. All right? Normal position. Rook in the middle. No drama. All right. Bishop e3. Okay, this is our first point of imbalance. Christopher Yu takes Magnus's bishop. Gives him this position. How will Magnus play this? Very principled play from Chris. Activates the position. bishop pair, trying to play on the long diagonals and towards white's king. Magnus plays knight c3, not afraid of a trade in the center, grabs the bishop back, and goes like this. Now, at this moment, the best move for black was to give up the rook completely and take the pawn on e3, which I don't know. I mean, I don't know how human that is. Probably both guys just thought the pawn will very easily be taken. Not really, though. It's actually very hard to get to that pawn. Instead of that, Magnus gets here. Now black does not have a bishop pair. Now white has a lot of activity with the rooks in the center. Black is at least 2 moves away from getting these pieces here, and you're not even going to be able to do that because your coordination is going to be disturbed. d5, the knight has to go back. Rook e1 attacks the knight, trying to bait it, by the way, to take, so that you have all sorts of pins and nasty things on the opponent. But after knight g6, knight d2, yeah, I mean, equal, just like against Rasmus or Frederick. Who did he play in the other round? All right, knight e4. Let's go. Bishop b3. This is the idea, along with d6. Knight e5, knight c5. The knight is hanging for black. You got to move it, but unfortunately, after knight b7 and rook c7, you are stuck. Completely stranded. In a span of just 5 moves, the rooks have been transferred into your position. You are totally squished. There is nothing you can do. Look at that. Just carved up. Rook c8. Final fancy move. Hits the rook, hits the king, protected. Queen is going to promote. And Christopher Yu resigns, and Magnus Carlsen climbs to 32.99. 4 more games. His next 4 opponents are Sam Sevion, 31.43. Mr. Tattaglia, who, that's not his, that's Adam Kozak. Jan Krzysztof Duda, aka Polish Fighter 3000. And then in the last round, the brother came to avenge his own brother and obviously didn't, because you know Magnus went 11-0. 4 more games against an average rating of like 3,100. Okay. Magnus plays the French. What's funny is that 2 rounds later, he also played the French. He decides, I want to play the French defense to close things out. I told you, we're going for a slightly longer video today because I want to really just hammer point the level difference. So, knight c3, bishop b4, we get a very complicated game. This is called the winnower. Knight c6. This is a sideline. Generally, black plays knight e7 and queen a5. White has a lot of different options here as well. Queen g4, advancing with the h-pawn. Knight c6 is a little bit of a sideline. Sevion plays a4. Magnus plays knight e7 and queen a5 and bishop d7. Just kind of develops all the pieces. But white has a lot more space here. And as typical for these positions, tries to just checkmate black if black brings the king over here. Let's see what Magnus does. h6, knight f3, and Magnus castles this way. Wow. Right into the line of attack. The bishop is attacking the queen here after the move c4. And that's exactly what Sevion goes for. Magnus backs up to c7, signaling to his opponent, come get me. Sevion takes on d5, but actually, it's now black, whose pieces come from passivity into activity, and f6, a well-timed central strike. Black is already castled, pieces are out. It's actually white who has to figure out where his king is going to go. He takes on f6, and now the g file's open. The e file is ready to be opened as well. The king is actually quite safe on b8. Let's see how Magnus is going to try to punish white. And yeah, white is still 2 moves away from castling at a minimum. With a king in the center of the board like this, you strike. That is what you do. And now Sam Sevion is in trouble. Very instructive game proceeding. Pawn takes d4. Attacking here. Pawn takes, and Sevion is just ready to go. He's sacrificing a pawn, but now his king has to go here. And Magnus plays bishop g4. That was actually not the best move. The best move was just to march down the queen side, because after bishop g4, rook h4 is in the game. The white king is safe, and the momentum has shifted. And actually, white is doing very well. He plays queen c1. He could have taken on h6 right away, but it's a super complicated game. Sevion gives up the rook, picks this up, and takes the pawn on h6. And we're going to an endgame where white is going to have an outside pass pawn against Magnus's 2 rooks and knight. Total chaos. Knight into c3. Bishop comes back, gives a check. The king is hunted out into the open, and white's pawn is 2 squares away from queening. But so is Magnus's. But rook c1. You have to take. Now bishop h5, according to the computer, is really nice. Bishop c7 is also a fork, which he plays. and picks up the rook, and now is only 1 square away from making a queen. And bishop d5, bishop g8 would be winning for white, sealing the rook away. So what does Magnus do? He plays d2. Rook a1 is the wrong move. Rook c4 apparently was winning. Rook a1, king b5, but instead we have b5 and bishop d5. He goes for my idea. But now bishop h5 was the winning move, which is, I don't even understand how that's possible. I guess you keep an eye on the promotion square and you have time to get over here. But after this, here, queen, check, here. Magnus has rook and knight versus queen. How's he going to win this position? How is this even possible? Well, his king goes running. This is the only way he's going to save this game, or if white blunders a fork or loses on time. Look at this. Look at how he brings all the pieces forward. Check. And suddenly, Sevion's queen is unable to stop the pawn from promoting. Queen d6 check, the knight blocks. Knight takes f3 check. All the pawns have fallen, and it's just Sevion's queen remaining against the knight, the pawn, and the rook. Knight c2, rook b4. You just have to get the queen out, and that's it. Unbelievable. Like, crazy piece coordination with less than 10 seconds on the clock. The queen is hunted out of the corner. This is a check. That means that's a promotion. And Sam Sevion loses on time here. And there are 3 more games. Like, the craziest part about this is he had all these battles. He was so clutch. There are 3 more games. How is he going to get it done against Adam Kozak, Grandmaster from Hungary? Again, very simple, straightforward queen's pawn position. This one, Magnus gets a central space advantage and the bishop pair. Let's see if he's able to put some pressure throughout this game without any memes, without any drama. He opens the center with e4. Big central space, 2 bishops. You have to open up the position with d4, e4. Black tries to fight back. Magnus closes it down, and now black's pieces are going to really suffer. I mean, they're not going to be able to move around so easily. The only pawn break in the black position is b5. White can shut that down with a4 and rook b1. So now you're probably going to have to win the game wherever you have the space advantage. And that's what he's about to do. Watch this. G3. Look, this is just such a precise move. The knight just can't touch you. The rooks keep staring at each other. Queen h5, targeting the knight. Black is doing a nice job. He really is, but so is white. White's going to bring his bishop. And now Magnus is like, damn, he's playing really well. I'm going to have to win this in the long run, in the endgame. Kozak giving up a pawn, but fighting back very nicely. Good piece coordination. Every one of these players gave Magnus a fight. Like right now, black, if he just makes one accurate move, is just totally fine, despite being a full pawn down in this endgame. He goes for counterplay on the queen side. Magnus plays rook h3, just one of the ugliest moves I've ever seen. But the point is, he wants to go g4. Like, you ask yourself, why is this here? You're just getting out of the way of all these pieces. That's all you're doing. Now, black takes here. G4 ideas. If rook b8, g5 ideas. And the rook very nicely protects this pawn. But this is like, the move rook h3, I can't even understand this move. It's so absurd. Rook b8. And Kozak is just in the game. He's in the game. Bishop takes b5, though, and the second that the endgame opens up, Magnus finds a way. And before you know it, black's king is exposed. Rook h7, rook d7 is coming. g6 is there. And he gets it done once again. He breaks into the black position. All the pawns are going to fall. Rook g6 wins the knight. And there's 2 games to go. It's just so wild. Jan Krzysztof Duda and Erasmus Svane. Will he be able to avenge his brother? Will he be able to put up a better fight? Let's see. Duda plays a King's Indian attack. So he doesn't even play, he plays like a total sideline against the French defense. Magnus just develops his pieces. Very chill. Rook d8. Now he's like, all right. My opponent's playing a little too passively for me. How about that pawn on d3? Yeah, I got news for you. That pawn's almost impossible to protect. Suddenly, white has to start making ugly moves like this. Magnus takes on c4, puts the knight right back. He's going to go bishop e5, knight d4. He's going to take control of the dark squares. Yeah. Or that. Knight d4. And why is he not playing knight d4? There it is. And now a big question. Do you take like this to open up the bishop this way? Or do you take like this to keep the position closed? Open up the position over there. Of course. He's the GOAT. What's crazy to me is this looks so much more natural. This also looks very good. But I would be worried I would be blocking in my bishop. But, you know, I would think, first of all, connect 4, open up like this, open up the bishop. Nope. Plays this move in 1.2 seconds, by the way. Puts the bishop on b4. Takes the knight. He takes the knight, so it can't blockade the pawn. He gives up the bishop pair because he knows that in the long run, his pawn structure is going to be better. And just, let's see. He sacked the queen for memes. Because his pawn is going to be so strong. Rook e6, bishop g6, opening the position, and Duda is just lost. He can't stop the attack. This is just, it's so absurd. 10 out of 10. And he has to play the brother. And this time he goes for a Jobava London. 10 out of 10. You go for glory in the last round. You don't make a quick draw. The brother is coming to avenge. We play f3, g4, h4. We're going full meme mode to win the final game of the tournament. g4, h4. Here we go. Push the knight back, e3, trade the bishop, develop. This is the position that we have to work with. Of course, just like all the other strong grandmasters that he has been playing, they're doing well, all right? They have a decent position from the opening. Actually, Rasmus just has a better position from the opening. Well, that was funny. The fire alarm went off. Anyway, apologies for the cut. Where were we? Black had just played the move king to h7, and I was simply making the point that basically every stronger master can get a good position from the opening against Magnus, especially when he plays something a bit more on the provocative side like here. But then you actually have to win the game, and that is the difficult part. Now, when I look at this position, I don't think castling this way makes a lot of sense because Black is very close to starting a very strong attack, but because here White has a space advantage, I would probably put my king over here. Magnus agrees with me, which is either a really good sign for me or a really bad sign for him. And now you have to do something about the queen side, which he does. Then he trades and improves his position ever so slightly, kind of baiting to see what the next thing his opponent is going to do. His opponent just makes an improving move, and Magnus plays knight f4, queen d6, repositions his knights, but still the position is not looking so convincing. So I think before Black can generate any sort of attack, Magnus threatens a queen trade, and maintains a very big time advantage, trades these knights, and goes here. But Black is still better. So how is Magnus going to win this one? All right, queen c5, still threatening the queen trade, always looking for the endgame, and now e4. Now, crazy. Magnus is the one, pushing the pace, but it's actually Black who has an advantage. Queen back to d2, knight back to c8, queen to e3, for some reason, not playing e5 because he doesn't want the knight to reappear on the f5 square. And now a4. Black has been better for the entire game, but he hasn't really done anything. All right, rook f4. This is Black's biggest advantage of the entire game. And now knight takes d5. Knight f5 here would have been maybe winning on the spot. We might have not gotten an 11 out of 11 run, but still it would have been, it would have been very cool to see. King g3, rook takes d4, and now we go to an endgame. An endgame time scramble. Magnus has 9 seconds on the clock against 17. 11 out of 11 in his grasp. 40 moves into the game. And the winning move is played in 0.3 seconds. Black just grabbed an extra pawn after having a better position for like 30 moves, and he's immediately losing. Because after pawn takes f5, rook takes f5, you cannot stop the attack on the king. In a queen and pawn endgame like this, this almost never happens. Black is lost. You cannot stop the 2 different checks. Or this one followed by that one. You cannot stop the checks. This is the only move. That's it. This is one of the only moves. But your final pawn collapses. And Magnus Carlsen checkmates the second brother who was so close to avenging the first one. He had some good positions. He had some bad positions. Doesn't matter. He got it done in the endgame. He got it done in the middle game. He got it done in the opening, in the early rounds. 11 out of 11, an unbelievable run, up to 3,300 blitz. Of course, the number 1 on the website. And just absurd, just like crazy to see how he does it again and again and again. And he's going to be like 40 winning these online tournaments, and he's not even going to be playing competitive chess. He's going to log in, go 11 out of 11, refuse to elaborate, and leave. That's all I have for you today. Get your tickets for the European Tour and the special event in Prague, in Czech Republic. Czechia, I don't know. I keep calling it Czech Republic. I've called it that my entire life. But I don't even think that's the official name anymore. That's all I have for you today. Get out of here.